Captain Daniel Hayes sat in his command chair aboard the Liberty, watching the stars through the main view screen. This was supposed to be a simple test flight. 3 hours out, 3 hours back. Nothing complicated. His crew had been preparing for this moment for 2 years, and now it was finally happening. The Liberty was humanity's first ship with a faster-than-light drive. It looked like a cylinder with 4 large rings around it. The ship was not pretty, but it worked. At least it was supposed to work. Daniel had 35 crew members with him, all volunteers who knew the risks. Lisa Morgan sat at the navigation station. She was young, only 28, but she was the best navigator Earth had. Her fingers moved across the controls as she checked the numbers one more time. Captain, all systems show green. We're ready for the jump. Paul Bennett's voice came through the speakers from the engineering deck. Drive is charged and stable. We can go whenever you give the word. Daniel looked around the bridge. Karen White was at the science station, monitoring every sensor the ship had. Greg Turner sat at communications, ready to send updates back to Earth. Everyone looked calm, but Daniel could see the excitement in their eyes. All right, people, this is it. Lisa, engage the drive on my mark. Daniel took a deep breath. 3, 2, 1, mark. Lisa pressed the button. The ship hummed. Then it shook. Then it screamed. Alarms went off everywhere. The view screen showed stars stretching into lines of light. Daniel gripped his chair as the ship spun. He tried to speak, but the force pushed the air from his lungs. This was not supposed to happen. Paul's voice crackled through the speakers. Captain, the drive is overloading. I can't shut it down. Try harder, Daniel managed to say. The shaking got worse. Karen's station sparked and went dark. Greg held onto his console to keep from falling. The stars outside became a solid white blur. Daniel felt like the ship was being pulled in every direction at once. Then it stopped. Everything went quiet. The alarms shut off. The humming disappeared. Daniel gasped for air and looked at the view screen. Stars. Normal stars. But something was wrong. There were too many of them. Status report, Daniel said, his voice rough. Hull is intact, Karen said, bringing her station back online. No breaches. Life support is normal. Engineering is a mess, but nothing critical is damaged, Paul reported. The drive burned itself out. We're not jumping anywhere for a while. Lisa stared at her screens. Her face was pale. Captain, you need to see this. Daniel walked over to her station. The navigation data made no sense. What am I looking at? We're not in the solar system anymore, Lisa said quietly. We're not anywhere near the solar system. According to these readings, we're 15,000 light-years from Earth. The bridge went silent. Daniel felt his stomach drop. 15,000 light-years. That was impossible. The test jump was supposed to move them 1 light-year, maybe 2 at most. Are you sure? Daniel asked. Lisa nodded. I've checked 3 times. The star patterns match databases from deep space telescopes. We're in the Sagittarius arm of the galaxy. Greg suddenly sat up straight. Captain, I'm picking up signals. Lots of signals. Radio, laser, subspace frequencies I've never seen before. They're coming from all around us. Karen checked her sensors. He's right. Captain, there are objects nearby. Big objects. I'm counting hundreds of them. No, thousands. Daniel returned to his chair. Put it on screen. The view screen changed. What Daniel saw made him forget how to breathe. Ships, stations, structures. They surrounded the Liberty on all sides. Some were small, the size of cars. Others were massive, bigger than cities. They came in every shape imaginable. Spheres, cubes, things with no clear shape at all. Lights blinked on their surfaces. Some had markings that might have been writing. Well, Daniel said after a long moment, I guess we're not alone after all. Paul came up to the bridge. He stopped when he saw the view screen. Are those what I think they are? Alien ships, Karen said. Or stations. Or something. There's so much activity here. This is like a highway intersection, but in space. Greg's station beeped. Captain, we're being hailed. Multiple sources. They're using different frequencies, but I think they're trying to communicate. Can you understand any of it? Daniel asked. Not yet, but give me a few minutes. Greg started working. Wait, one signal is using mathematical patterns. Prime numbers. This is something we can work with. Daniel watched the alien structures on the screen. Any other captain might have panicked. Any other crew might have been screaming. But Daniel and his people had been chosen because they could stay calm under pressure. Also, they had all grown up reading books and watching movies about aliens. This was strange, yes, but it was not unexpected. All right, people, listen up, Daniel said. We're in an unknown situation, but we're not helpless. Greg, establish communication however you can. Karen, keep scanning. I want to know if any of those ships are weapons. Lisa, figure out exactly where we are. Paul, assess what we need to fix the drive. On it, they all said together. It took Greg 30 minutes to establish basic communication. He used mathematics, then simple images, then basic sounds. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It did not sound human. It sounded like rocks grinding together, but words came through the translation software Greg had quickly modified. Unidentified vessel. Identify yourself. How did you enter controlled space without authorization? Daniel straightened in his chair. This is Captain Daniel Hayes of the vessel Liberty, representing the planet Earth and the human species. We did not intentionally enter your space. Our drive malfunctioned during a test flight. We mean no harm. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. Earth, human. We have no record of these designations. Stand by for inspection. Do not attempt to move or activate weapons. We don't have weapons, Daniel muttered. To Greg, he said, tell them we will cooperate. 3 ships approached the Liberty. They were sleek and silver, each one 3 times larger than the human vessel. They circled slowly, scanning with beams of blue light. Karen watched her sensors carefully. They're not being aggressive. This feels like a security check, not an attack. After 10 minutes, the voice returned. Captain Hayes, you are telling the truth. Your vessel has no weapons and your technology is primitive. You will be escorted to Unity Station for processing. Do not resist. Processing for what? Daniel asked. You have made first contact with the Galactic Coordination Council. This is a significant event. There are procedures that must be followed. Daniel looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Lisa shrugged. Paul nodded. Karen gave a thumbs up. Greg grinned. Understood, Daniel told the voice. We will follow your escort. The 3 silver ships moved into formation around the Liberty. Slowly they began moving toward one of the massive structures in the distance. It looked like a wheel with 1,000 spokes, each spoke the size of a skyscraper. Daniel leaned back in his chair. His hands were steady. His heartbeat was calm. Somewhere behind them, Earth was 15,000 light-years away. Ahead of them was an alien civilization that humanity had never imagined existed. And somehow Daniel was not surprised at all. Unity Station was bigger than anything Daniel had ever seen. As the Liberty approached, the structure grew larger and larger until it filled the entire view screen. The station was shaped like a massive wheel with countless levels stacked on top of each other. Ships of every size moved in and out of thousands of docking bays. Lights blinked in patterns that might have been signals or advertisements or something else entirely. The escort ships guided the Liberty to a docking bay near the outer ring. The bay was large enough to fit 10 ships the size of the Liberty. As they settled into position, Daniel saw other vessels nearby. Some had wings, some had tentacles. One looked like a floating crystal. None of them looked like human designs. Docking clamps engaged, Lisa reported. We're secure. A new voice came through the communication system. This one sounded different, like wind chimes mixed with a deep hum. Captain Hayes, welcome to Unity Station. I am Coordinator Vex of the Galactic Coordination Council. A delegation will meet you at your airlock in 10 minutes. Please prepare yourself and a small team. Daniel stood and stretched. Karen, Greg, you're with me. Paul, stay here and keep the ship ready. Lisa, monitor everything. If anything goes wrong, seal the ship and call for help. Who would we call? Lisa asked. Good point, Daniel admitted. Just seal the ship. 10 minutes later, Daniel stood at the airlock with Karen and Greg. They wore their standard uniforms, blue jumpsuits with the Earth flag on the shoulder. Daniel had decided not to wear anything that looked military. They were explorers, not soldiers. The airlock opened. On the other side stood 3 beings that were definitely not human. The first looked like a floating cluster of crystals, each one glowing with a soft blue light. The crystals moved and shifted, forming different patterns as it floated. This was Coordinator Vex. The second was tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. Its head was smooth with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. It wore something that might have been clothing or might have been part of its body. The third was short and covered in what looked like fur or feathers. It had 6 legs and a face that reminded Daniel of a cat mixed with a bird. Captain Hayes, the crystal being said. Its voice came from somewhere inside the cluster. I am Coordinator Vex. This is Science Director Trell and Cultural Specialist Mira. We welcome you to Unity Station, though we must admit your arrival is highly irregular. Daniel extended his hand, then realized that might not translate. He lowered it. Thank you for seeing us. We apologize for any inconvenience. As I said before, our arrival was an accident. Coordinator Vex's crystals shifted into a new pattern. Yes, we have analyzed your vessel. Your faster-than-light drive is unlike anything in our databases. How did your species develop such technology? We built it ourselves, Karen said. It took 40 years of research. All three aliens seemed to react to this. Trell's three eyes widened. Mira's fur stood up. Vex's crystals turned bright white for a moment. You developed faster-than-light travel independently? Trell asked, his voice deep and slow. Without guidance from another species? Yes, Greg confirmed. Is that unusual? Unusual? Mira spoke for the first time. Her voice was high and musical. It is nearly unheard of. Most species in the galaxy discover technology by finding ancient ruins or being contacted by established civilizations. Independent development is extremely rare. Coordinator Vex floated forward. Come, we have much to discuss. Your arrival has created quite a situation. The delegation led Daniel and his team through the station. The corridors were wide and tall, designed to accommodate many different body types. The walls glowed with a soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Aliens of every description moved through the halls. Some walked, some flew, some slithered. A few moved in ways Daniel could not describe. Karen was recording everything with a small camera. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Greg was trying not to stare at everyone they passed. Daniel kept his expression neutral, but inside he was amazed. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now he was walking through a space station filled with thousands of alien species. They entered a large room filled with seats arranged in a circle. Screens covered the walls, showing images and data in languages Daniel could not read. About 20 aliens were already seated, representing different species. They all turned to look at the humans. Coordinator Vex floated to the center of the room. Council members, I present Captain Daniel Hayes and his colleagues from the species calling themselves humans, from the planet Earth. They have made unauthorized entry into council space. Though it appears to be accidental, one of the aliens, a massive creature that looked like an upright bear made of stone, spoke in a voice like an avalanche. How do we know it was accidental? This could be a spy mission. Their technology is primitive, Trell explained, moving to a screen. Their ship has no weapons, limited sensors, and their faster-than-light drive destroyed itself during the jump. If this is a spy mission, it is the worst planned mission in galactic history. Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Daniel stepped forward. May I speak? Coordinator Vex's crystals shifted. Please do. We are not spies. We are explorers. Our species has always looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. We built our technology to find answers. We did not expect to find anyone, but we are not surprised that you exist. A snake-like alien with dozens of small arms spoke in a hissing voice. You are not surprised? Every species experiences profound shock upon learning they are not alone. Yet you seem calm, Karen spoke up. We have been imagining this moment for over 100 years. Our literature, our entertainment, our philosophy, all include the possibility of alien life. We have thought about friendly aliens, hostile aliens, and everything in between. Finding out you exist is confirmation, not revelation. The council members murmured among themselves in various languages. Daniel could tell they found this concept strange. Coordinator Vex addressed the room. This brings us to the main issue. The humans entered space claimed by the Zintar hegemony. The hegemony has already sent a message demanding that the humans be turned over to them for processing, according to Zintar law. What does that mean? Greg asked. Mira answered quietly. The Zintar hegemony operates in the lawless regions between galactic arms. They are not part of the council, but they are powerful. If they believe you entered their space first, they will claim ownership rights over your species. Daniel felt his stomach tighten. Ownership rights? They would control all contact between your species and the galaxy, Trell explained. They would have first access to your technology, your resources, your people. They would become your gateway to the rest of civilization. That's not going to happen, Daniel said firmly. You may not have a choice, the Stone Bear said. The Council cannot risk war with the Zintar over an unknown species. Even an unknown species that developed faster than light travel independently? Karen asked pointedly. That made the council pause. Coordinator Vex's crystals turned a thoughtful purple color. She raises a valid point, a small floating blob said. A species capable of independent technological development is valuable. They may offer new perspectives, new innovations, or new threats, another alien countered. The debate continued for an hour. Daniel, Karen, and Greg were asked hundreds of questions. Where was Earth? How many humans existed? What was their government structure? What other technologies had they developed? Did they have weapons? What were their intentions? Daniel answered honestly. Earth had 8 billion people. Their governments were divided but mostly cooperative. They had nuclear weapons but had not used them in war for 80 years. Their space program was small but growing. Their intention was exploration and learning, not conquest. Finally, Coordinator Vex called for silence. The council will deliberate on this matter. Captain Hayes, you and your crew will remain on Unity Station as our guests. You will be provided quarters and given access to basic station facilities. However, you may not leave the station or contact your homeworld until we have made our decision. How long will that take? Daniel asked. As long as necessary, Vex said. The Zintar fleet will arrive in 3 weeks. We must decide what to do before then. Daniel nodded. We understand. Thank you for your hospitality. As they were escorted to their quarters, Greg whispered to Daniel. 3 weeks. That's not much time. No, it's not, Daniel agreed. But it's what we have. We need to make ourselves valuable enough that the council wants to protect us. Karen smiled slightly. So we do what humans do best, and what's that? Greg asked. We adapt and improvise, Karen said. We've been doing it for our entire history. No reason to stop now. Their quarters were surprisingly comfortable. 3 connected rooms with beds, a common area, and what appeared to be a bathroom. The furniture adjusted itself to human proportions when they entered. Daniel sat down heavily. Through the window he could see the vast expanse of space and the countless ships moving around the station. Somewhere out there, 15,000 light-years away, Earth continued spinning, unaware that humanity had just entered a much larger and more complicated universe. Well, Daniel said to his companions, this is going to be interesting. Paul Bennett loved a good puzzle, and the Liberty's broken drive was the biggest puzzle he had ever seen. The engineering team spent 3 days taking the drive apart and documenting every component. What they found surprised them. The malfunction had not destroyed the drive. It had changed it. The quantum crystals at the heart of the system had reorganized themselves into a new pattern. Paul had never seen anything like it. He took detailed scans and sent them to Trell, the 4-armed science director who had been assigned to work with the humans. Trell arrived in the engineering bay and studied the scans for a long time. His 3 eyes moved independently, each one focusing on different parts of the data. Finally, he spoke. This should not be possible. Your drive uses principles that contradict established galactic theory. Paul grinned. I love hearing that. Tell me more. Trell pulled up a holographic display. Galactic faster-than-light travel works by folding space. We compress the distance between 2 points and slide through the fold. It is reliable but limited. Your drive appears to skip through space instead, jumping from point to point without traveling through the space between. Is that better or worse? Paul asked. Different, Trell said. Our method is efficient for short and medium distances. Your method is unpredictable, but potentially much faster for extreme distances. However, no species has successfully used skip drive technology in over 10,000 years. The mathematics are too complex. Well, we figured it out, Paul said proudly. Took us 40 years, but we did it. Trell's eyes all focused on Paul at once. You figured it out. From nothing, with no template or ancient technology to study. Correct. How? Paul shrugged. We're good at math. And we're stubborn. When we want to understand something, we keep working at it until we do. Trell made a sound like wind whistling through a tunnel. Paul eventually realized it was laughter. Captain Hayes was correct. Your species is full of surprises. Meanwhile, Karen was making her own discoveries about galactic culture. She spent hours in the station's public areas observing and taking notes. The aliens she watched were technologically advanced, yes, but they were also surprisingly rigid in their behaviors. She noticed that species tended to stay with their own kind. The rock bear people always traveled in groups of 3, The floating blobs always moved in straight lines. The snake aliens always entered rooms in the same order. When Karen tried to talk to random aliens, most of them seemed confused by the concept of casual conversation with a stranger. Cultural specialist Mira met with Karen in one of the station's observation lounges. The catbird alien seemed friendlier than most, perhaps because her job was understanding other cultures. "You seem troubled," Mira said, her musical voice gentle. "Not troubled," Karen replied. "Just trying to understand. Everyone here seems so formal, so structured." "Is that normal?" Mira's fur rippled. "What is normal?" "But yes, most species in the galaxy prefer order and predictability. Change is difficult. It requires adaptation, and adaptation requires flexibility. Most species find flexibility uncomfortable." "Humans don't," Karen said. "We adapt constantly. Our cultures change every generation. Our technology evolves rapidly. We argue about everything and rarely agree on the best way to do things." "That sounds chaotic." "It is," Karen admitted. "But it also means we're good at handling unexpected situations. When the Liberty's drive failed and we ended up here, none of us panicked. We just started solving problems." Mira tilted her head. "Your homeworld. Tell me about it." Karen pulled up images on her tablet. Earth rotating in space, oceans and continents, mountains and deserts, cities and forests. It's a diverse planet. Lots of different environments. Extreme cold at the poles, extreme heat at the equator. Storms, earthquakes, volcanoes. Life is constant adaptation. Most species evolve on stable worlds, Mira said quietly. Worlds where the environment changes slowly over millions of years. Your world changes quickly. That must have shaped how you think. "We call Earth a death world," Karen said. "Not because it's dead, but because it's so dangerous. Everything on Earth is competing to survive, including us." Mira's eyes widened. "A death world. That explains much about your behavior." Greg Turner was having his own interesting experiences in the communications center. The station's communication systems were incredibly advanced, but also surprisingly vulnerable. Greg discovered this by accident when he was trying to send a message to the Liberty. He accidentally used the wrong protocol, and his message ended up broadcasting to half the station. Within minutes, security arrived to investigate. A stern-looking alien that resembled a walking insect confronted him. "You have violated communication protocols," the security officer buzzed. "How did you access restricted channels?" "I didn't mean to," Greg said honestly. "I was just trying to call my ship. I must have hit the wrong button." The security officer checked the logs. "You bypassed 3 security layers without authorization codes." "I did?" "How?" The officer showed him. Greg looked at the system architecture and suddenly understood. "Oh, I see the problem. Your security assumes that everyone follows the same logical pathways, but I was thinking differently, so I accidentally went around the security instead of through it. That should not be possible." "But it happened," Greg pointed out, "which means your systems might have vulnerabilities you don't know about." The security officer stared at Greg for a long moment. Then it called Coordinator Vex. An hour later, Greg was in a meeting with the station's chief computer specialist, a gelatinous being that communicated through color changes in its transparent body. Greg explained what he had discovered. "Human computer systems evolved differently from yours," he said. "We assumed our systems would be attacked, so we built them with redundancy and multiple security layers that don't rely on users being logical. We built our systems expecting chaos." The computer specialist pulsed orange, which the translator said meant interest. "Show me your computer architecture." Greg pulled up schematics of human computer systems. The specialist studied them and pulsed several colors in rapid succession. "Fascinating. Your systems are less efficient than ours, but far more resilient. Our systems are optimized for speed and logic. Yours are optimized for surviving hostile environments. We have a lot of computer hackers on Earth," Greg explained. "People who break into systems for fun or profit. We have to constantly update our security to stay ahead of them. You allow this?" "We can't stop it," Greg said. "So we adapted to it. Made our systems stronger by assuming they would be attacked." The specialist pulsed green. "Your species has a unique approach to technology. I would like to study it further." Over the next 2 weeks, the 3 humans shared their knowledge with various aliens on the station. Paul worked with Trell on understanding human drive technology. Karen gave presentations on human cultural adaptability. Greg helped improve the station's computer security. Word spread quickly through Unity Station that the humans were not just primitives who had stumbled into the galaxy by accident. They were innovators who thought differently and solved problems in ways that surprised everyone. Coordinator Vex called Daniel to a private meeting. The crystal being floated in front of a large window overlooking the station's docking bays. "Captain Hayes, I must admit that my initial assessment of your species was incorrect," Vex said. "I assumed you were simply lucky to have developed faster than light travel. I now understand that luck had little to do with it. We're stubborn," Daniel said, "and creative, and we don't give up easily." "Yes, I am learning this." Vex's crystal shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Your crew has provided valuable insights to our scientists. Your engineer Paul has proposed modifications to our standard drives that could improve efficiency by 7%. Your cultural specialist Karen has written a paper on adaptive strategies that is being widely read. Your communications officer Greg has identified security vulnerabilities in systems we thought were impregnable. We're happy to help," Daniel said. "That is what concerns some members of the council," Vex admitted. "You are helpful, yes. But you are also unpredictable. Many species find unpredictability dangerous. Is that why some council members want to hand us over to the Xintar?" "Yes. They believe controlling your species early will prevent potential problems later." Daniel turned to face Vex directly. "With respect, Coordinator, trying to control humans rarely works out well. We don't respond well to authority we don't respect, but we are excellent partners to those who treat us as equals." "Equals?" Vex's crystals flashed red. "Captain, your species has only just achieved faster than light travel. Most council members have been exploring space for thousands of years. And yet," Daniel said calmly, "in 2 weeks we have already contributed new ideas that your 1,000-year-old civilizations found valuable. Experience is important, yes, but so is fresh perspective." Vex was silent for a long moment. The crystals cycled through several colors before settling on purple. "You make a compelling argument," Vex finally said. "I will recommend to the Council that humanity be granted provisional independence. However, the Xintar arrive in 5 days. They will not accept this decision easily. They believe you entered their space first, and by their laws that gives them claim to your species. Then we'll have to convince them otherwise," Daniel said. "How?" "The Xintar fleet arrived exactly when they said they would. 30 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation around Unity Station. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons and armor. They looked like predators designed to intimidate and destroy." Daniel watched them from the Liberty's bridge. His crew was tense but focused. They had spent 5 days preparing for this moment, and now it was time to see if their plan would work. "Those are some serious ships," Lisa said quietly. "They're meant to scare us," Daniel replied. "Don't let them." A communication request came through. Greg accepted it, and a face appeared on the view screen. The Xintar looked like a cross between a lizard and a wolf, with dark scales, sharp teeth, and eyes that glowed red. This was War Master Krenth, leader of the fleet. "I am War Master Krenth of the Xintar hegemony," the alien growled. "You are the humans who entered our territory without permission. You will surrender yourselves to our custody immediately." Daniel stood and faced the screen. "I am Captain Daniel Hayes of the Earth vessel Liberty. We did not enter your territory intentionally. Our drive malfunctioned. We are not your property." Krenth's eyes narrowed. "You entered Xintar space. By our laws, you now belong to the hegemony. You will come with us, or we will take you by force." "No," Daniel said simply. The word hung in the air. On the view screen, Krenth looked surprised. Clearly, he had not expected such a direct refusal. "You dare refuse me? Your ship has no weapons. You have no allies. You are one small vessel against 30 warships. You cannot win." "Winning isn't always about firepower," Daniel said. "Sometimes it's about making the other side realize that fighting is the wrong choice." Krenth bared his teeth. "Explain." "You want to capture us because you think we're valuable," Daniel said. "Our technology, our knowledge, our potential. You see us as a resource to exploit. But here's what you're missing. Resources are only valuable if they cooperate. And we won't cooperate with captors. We'll resist sabotage and make ourselves more trouble than we're worth." "We can break your will," Krenth said confidently. "Can you?" Daniel asked. "How many species have you successfully broken? How many of them gave you everything you wanted? And how many of them gave you just enough to satisfy you while hiding their best secrets?" Krenth was silent for a moment. Daniel could see the calculations happening behind those red eyes. However, Daniel continued, if you treat us as equals, as partners rather than property, we might be willing to share what we know. We might even help you with problems you haven't been able to solve. But that only works if we're free to make that choice. You are in no position to negotiate, Krenth said, but his voice was less certain. Actually, we are, Daniel said, because the Galactic Council is watching. If you attack us without provocation, you'll be starting a war. Is capturing one small ship worth that risk? Coordinator Vex's voice suddenly came through on a shared channel. War Master Krenth, the humans are currently under Council protection while we evaluate their status. Any attack on them will be considered an attack on the Council itself, Krenth snarled. They entered hegemony space first. That is disputed, Vex replied. They appeared in neutral space that both the Council and the hegemony claim. Without proof of intentional trespass, Council law applies. This is a political game, Krenth accused. Yes, it is, Vex agreed. One that you cannot win through force alone. Daniel decided to take a risk. War Master Krenth, I request a formal dialogue. Not as a prisoner, but as the representative of an independent species. Give me 1 hour of your time. If you're not satisfied, you can take your grievance to the Council for arbitration. But at least hear what we have to offer. Krenth stared at Daniel through the screen. The silence stretched out. Finally, the War Master spoke. 1 hour. You will come to my ship alone. No, Lisa said immediately. Captain, that's too dangerous. I'll come with 2 crew members, Daniel countered. Standard diplomatic protocol. Krenth considered this. Acceptable. You have 10 minutes to prepare. A shuttle will retrieve you. The screen went dark. Daniel took a deep breath and looked at his crew. This is insane, Paul said. Probably, Daniel agreed. But it's also our best chance. Karen, Greg, you're with me. Lisa, you have the Liberty. If this goes bad, seal the ship and get everyone to safety. Where would we go? Lisa asked. I have no idea, Daniel admitted. But you'll figure something out. You always do. The Zintar shuttle was as intimidating as their warships. Dark metal, sharp angles, and an interior that smelled like something between oil and sulfur. 2 Zintar guards escorted Daniel, Karen, and Greg through corridors that were clearly designed to make visitors feel small and vulnerable. They entered a large chamber that served as Krenth's command center. The War Master sat on a raised platform, surrounded by screens and tactical displays. Several other Zintar stood nearby, all watching the humans with predatory interest. Speak, Krenth commanded. Daniel stepped forward. War Master, you claim we entered your space. Let's say you're right. What then? You capture us, take our ship, study our technology. Maybe you learn something useful. Maybe you don't. But either way, you've made enemies of both us and the Council. That's a heavy cost. Or, Krenth countered, I gained control of a species that developed faster than light travel independently. That is worth some political conflict, is it? Karen spoke up. How many species have you controlled over the years? How many of them have given you revolutionary breakthroughs? Or do they just give you incremental improvements on things you already know? One of the other Zintar growled something in their language. Krenth raised a hand for silence. She has a point, Krenth admitted. Conquered species are rarely innovative. They do what they must to survive, nothing more. Exactly, Daniel said. But willing partners, true allies, they share their best ideas because they want to. They collaborate because they see mutual benefit. That's what we're offering. You offer this after refusing to submit to hegemony law, Krenth pointed out. Because your law assumes we're your property, Greg said. We're not. We're free beings who happen to end up in a place we didn't intend to be. That doesn't make us yours any more than it makes us the Council's. Krenth stood and walked down from his platform. He was massive, easily 7 feet tall with muscles visible under his scales. He stopped in front of Daniel, close enough that Daniel could smell his breath. You are brave for a creature so small and weak, Krenth said. But bravery alone is not enough. What can you offer the hegemony that would make alliance more valuable than conquest? Daniel had been preparing for this question. Our drive technology uses different principles than galactic standard. Your science director could confirm this. We can share that technology, help you understand it, maybe even improve your own drives, but only as partners, not prisoners. Technology can be stolen. Our engineer has already modified the Liberty's drive, Daniel said. The quantum signature is now completely unique and randomized. No one in the galaxy can track or predict our jump patterns. If you try to capture us, we'll jump away and you'll never find us. But if we're allies, we'll stay and work with you." This was a bluff. The Liberty's drive was barely functional, and any jump attempt might destroy the ship. But Krenth didn't know that. The War Master studied Daniel carefully. "You are cunning. I respect that. But respect is not trust. How do I know you will keep your word?" "How do we know you will?" Karen countered. "Trust is always a risk, but it's a risk worth taking when the potential reward is high." Krenth turned away and spoke in his own language with the other Zintar. The conversation lasted several minutes with growls and hisses that the translator couldn't process. Finally, Krenth turned back to the humans. "I have a proposal. The hegemony will recognize human independence. We will withdraw our claim to your species. In return, you will establish a technology sharing agreement with us. Not exclusive, but we get priority access for 10 standard years. You will also agree to non-aggression with the hegemony for the same period." Daniel considered this carefully. Priority access means what exactly? When you develop new technology, you show it to us first before sharing with others. We get first opportunity to negotiate for it. "That's reasonable," Daniel said. "But the agreement has to be voluntary. If we decide not to share something for any reason, you accept that decision without penalty." "Acceptable. But you must share at least 3 significant technologies during the 10-year period." Define significant. Anything that improves speed, efficiency, or capability by more than 5% compared to current standards. Daniel looked at Karen and Greg. Both nodded slightly. He turned back to Krenth. "Agreed. But we need one more condition. The hegemony vouches for human independence to the rest of the galaxy. If anyone else tries to claim us as property, you back our right to self-determination." Krenth's teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "You want us to be your defenders." "I want us to be allies who support each other," Daniel corrected. "Today you support our independence. Tomorrow we might support your interests. That's how partnerships work." Krenth extended his clawed hand. Daniel took it, trying not to wince as the sharp edges pressed into his skin. They shook once firmly. "We have an agreement," Krenth announced. "The Zintar hegemony recognizes the humans as an independent species." 6 months after the Liberty disappeared, the world had mostly given up hope. NASA held memorial services. The crew's families mourned. Governments quietly shelved their space programs, afraid that the faster-than-light drive was too dangerous to pursue. Then, on a Tuesday morning, every radio telescope on Earth picked up the same signal. Mathematical patterns. Prime numbers. The same method the Liberty had used to communicate with the aliens. The message was simple. "This is Captain Daniel Hayes. We are returning home. Please prepare for visitors." The world exploded with activity. NASA scrambled to coordinate a response. The United Nations called an emergency session. News networks broadcast nonstop coverage. Within hours, every person on Earth knew that the Liberty had survived and was coming back. And they were bringing aliens with them. 3 days later, the Liberty dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Earth's moon. The ship looked rough, with scorch marks on the hull and mismatched repair patches visible on the outer plating. But it was intact, and all 35 crew members were alive. Following behind the Liberty were 3 other ships. One was a sleek Council diplomatic vessel. Another was a Zintar escort ship. The third was a science vessel from a species called the Varan, who had been studying human drive technology. Daniel sat in his command chair, looking at Earth through the view screen. Home. After 6 months in alien space, dealing with galactic politics and arguing with beings that defied description, he was finally home. "It's beautiful," Lisa said softly. "I forgot how blue it is." "Contact from Earth Space Command," Greg reported. "They're asking for confirmation of identity and status. Tell them Captain Daniel Hayes is requesting permission to return home. And tell them we need to talk about some things we learned while we were away." The Liberty and its escort landed at Kennedy Space Center 3 hours later. The place was surrounded by military vehicles, news crews, and thousands of people who had come to witness humanity's first official contact with alien species. Daniel stepped out of the ship first, followed by his crew. The cameras flashed like stars. He saw the NASA director, the President of the United States, and dozens of other officials waiting at a safe distance. Then the aliens emerged from their ships. Coordinator Vex floated out, crystals glowing blue in Earth's sunlight. War Master Krenth walked down the ramp, his scales reflecting light like dark mirrors. The Varan scientist, a being named Quellen who looked like a walking flower, moved gracefully despite Earth's gravity. The crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Security forces tightened their positions. But Daniel had made one request before landing: no weapons visible and everyone stays calm. To their credit, Earth's representatives followed his instructions. President Helen Carter stepped forward. She was a composed woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She stopped a respectful distance from the aliens and spoke clearly. On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our world. We are honored by your presence and grateful for the safe return of our people. Coordinator Vex's translator rendered the words into sounds the aliens could understand. Vex's crystals shifted to a warm green color. We are honored to visit Earth. Your people have made quite an impression on the galaxy. We look forward to learning more about your world. The formal greetings continued for several minutes. Then President Carter turned to Daniel. Captain Hayes, you have a lot to explain. Yes, ma'am, I do, Daniel agreed. The debriefing lasted 3 days. Daniel and his crew were questioned by scientists, military leaders, politicians, and intelligence officers. They showed videos and data from Unity Station. They explained the Galactic Coordination Council, the Xintar hegemony, and the complex political situation humanity had stumbled into. Some officials were excited. Others were terrified. Everyone had questions. How advanced are they compared to us? Asked a general. Thousands of years ahead in some areas, Paul explained. But we have advantages they don't. Our technology developed differently because we had to figure everything out ourselves. Are they a threat? Asked a senator. Some of them could be, Karen admitted. But most are just curious. They've never met a species like us before. We're unpredictable, and that makes us interesting. Why did they let you leave? Asked an intelligence officer. Because we made ourselves valuable, Daniel said. We showed them that we're better as partners than as prisoners. We made deals that benefit everyone. You made deals without government authorization, a State Department official pointed out. I made deals that saved our lives and secured humanity's independence, Daniel corrected. Would you have preferred I let the Xintar capture us? The official had no answer to that. After the debriefings came the public addresses. President Carter spoke to the United Nations, with Coordinator Vex floating beside her. Today marks a new chapter in human history, Carter said. We have confirmed what many suspected. We are not alone in the universe. The galaxy is filled with civilizations, some ancient, some young like us. We have been invited to join this larger community, not as subjects or servants, but as independent partners. She paused, letting that sink in. This will change everything. Our technology, our culture, our understanding of our place in the cosmos. But change is not something humanity fears. We have faced change throughout our history, and we have always adapted. We will adapt to this as well. Coordinator Vex spoke next. Humanity is unique among the species we have encountered. They develop technology independently. They think in ways that surprise us, and they face the unknown with courage rather than fear. The galaxy will be richer for their participation. Over the following months, Earth transformed. Diplomatic embassies were established. Technology sharing agreements were negotiated. Human scientists worked with alien researchers to understand new principles of physics and engineering. Lisa Morgan returned to NASA and led the team designing Earth's next generation of faster-than-light ships. She incorporated lessons from galactic technology while keeping the unique human approach that made the Liberty's drive so interesting to alien scientist. Paul Bennett became the director of the new International Space Engineering Program. He worked with teams from dozens of countries to build ships that could safely travel between stars. He also consulted with alien engineers, sharing human innovations while learning their techniques. Karen White founded the Institute for Xenocultural Studies. She trained diplomats and scientists in how to communicate with alien species, teaching them to be flexible, creative, and respectful. Her classes were always full, with students eager to learn about the galaxy's diverse cultures. Greg Turner joined the Global Communications Network, helping to build the infrastructure for Earth to stay connected with the wider galaxy. He also wrote a book about his experiences called Talking to Aliens: How Not to Start a War, which became an international bestseller. Daniel himself was promoted to admiral and put in charge of the newly created Earth Space Defense and Exploration Command. It was his job to oversee Earth's expansion into space and protect human interests in the galaxy. 1 year after the Liberty's return, 12 new human ships launched from Earth. They were bigger than the Liberty, more advanced, and designed specifically for deep space exploration and diplomacy. Each ship had a mixed crew of experienced astronauts and eager young explorers ready to see what the galaxy had to offer. Daniel stood in the command center, watching the ships depart. Beside him stood Coordinator Vex, who had stayed on Earth as the Council's primary liaison. "They look eager," Vex observed, crystals pulsing with amusement. "They are," Daniel said. "We've been staring at the stars for thousands of years, wondering what was out there. Now we know, and we can't wait to explore." "Most species are more cautious," Vex said. "They plan for decades before venturing far from their homeworld. Humans built 12 ships in 1 year and sent them off immediately." "We're impatient," Daniel admitted. "We want to see everything, learn everything, experience everything. Life is short. We don't want to waste it." "Death world instincts," Vex said, using the term Karen had taught the aliens. "Always moving, always adapting, always pushing forward. Is that a problem?" Daniel asked. "No." Vex's crystals turned a thoughtful purple. "It is refreshing. The galaxy has been stable for a long time. Perhaps too stable. Many species have become complacent, content with what they know. Humanity reminds us that there is always more to discover." A message came through from one of the departing ships. It was Captain Linda Shaw, commander of the exploration vessel Horizon. "Admiral Hayes, we're about to make our first jump. Just wanted to say thanks for showing us how it's done." Daniel smiled. "Good luck out there, Captain. Don't do anything I wouldn't do." "That doesn't leave me many options," Shaw laughed. "See you among the stars." The Horizon's engines glowed bright, and then the ship vanished, jumping to faster than light speed. One by one, the other ships followed. "Do you ever regret it?" Vex asked. "Stumbling into the galaxy by accident? Your lives were simpler before." Daniel thought about it. 6 months of confusion, danger, and exhausting negotiations. But also 6 months of wonder, discovery, and making friends with beings from across the galaxy. He thought about his crew, scattered now across Earth and space, all of them changed by what they had experienced.